Good evening, and welcome to another edition of the New Black Leadership Coalition, here live in the studios of Intellectual Radio, all the way on another side of town. That's all I'm going to say. In an undisclosed B16 location. I am Gregory Singh, the co-host and one of the co-founders of the New Black Leadership. Very, very thankful for this opportunity and so blessed and favored because of what I've decided in my life to focus on. And I've decided a long time ago a cause to take up. So I'm so thankful that God designed me and made me in the way that he did, personality wise, my spirit, etc. And I'm very thankful for our ancestors. I'm thankful for our members that are not here, and always like to let them know, if they can hear my voice, however that goes down, that we love you and you'll never be forgotten. So many of our people here that's been here before us, and some of the tall shoulders that we stand on. So again, being spiritual people, would definitely like to thank Almighty God for such a blessing. Have with me this evening, and believe it or not, on both shows on Monday nights at the here at 7 o'clock, and on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock at Can Television Channel 21. The founder, co-founder, co-host, producer, and just all around player on the team, Minister Mike Muhammad. I referred to him on my post, and a brother used to call me that, and I've just handed that name over to Minister Mike, the breath of fire. My mama listening tonight. Not that my mama got something against me, but when it comes to him and Harold Davis, she tuned in. Wow. And my brother, but that's good. And I'm learning something about Mike, and then I'm gonna pick back up on a conversation that we were having. But I'm gonna let Mike introduce himself and say some greetings to you guys, and then I'm gonna give a commentary, and then we're gonna keep it pushing.
All right. Well, thank you, Brother Gregory, for the introduction. My introduction of myself is very brief. I like to let the information, the knowledge, the truth that we share speak for itself. We're only vessels of the author of truth, and we are only servants of a God who wants us to know the truth that we might be free. And we have a duty that is incumbent upon us, being blessed to see and know the truth.
Absolutely.
And being of such a makeup that we could stand with the boldest truth teller in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I don't know what's going on with my phone over there, but we may have to shut that one down if it won't be quiet.
No, it's but it'll go. It'll stop.
Yeah. So pardon me, but it's a blessing and an honor to have a measure of respect from one's peers, that we can all, or some of us, we can come together and agree upon a need, and that we can, to the best of our abilities, attempt for a unique example of what leadership should and could represent. A servant model of leadership, a bottom-up model of leadership versus a top-down model of leadership, because Black people in America, in particular, we are being destroyed by the top-down model of leadership that is all about the individual leader or the individual leaders at the top, to the detriment of those who would trust them and follow them and and defer to them. And so we have to try to change that paradigm in our lifetime, because our children are in the world now, and we have not done our duty by our children to save or create a model that they can plug into that will empower them, where they don't have to feel that they need to be politically correct to become homogenized or watered down black people to get along with people that really don't have their interests at heart, or learn how to integrate and commingle with people that have their own interests and sacrifice any sense of their blackness. This is kind of the position we put our young people in. So your children and my children, they may have gotten some rewards and benefits from the life that we've lived and the truth we've embraced, but there are millions of other young people that didn't have the benefit of a good upbringing, and they don't have the benefit of looking at strong black men who can give them a model of how to be as young black men and women. And so we see they're out there lost and have fallen into savage behavior because, quite frankly, we failed our young people. Our leadership has failed our young people. As fathers, we failed our young people. As mothers, even many of the mothers of our children have failed our young people. And so we have an obligation in our lifetime, best effort, to put a different model up. We don't know if we'll be successful, but we know in the end, black people will win.
Yeah, but I mean, I love that. And that's a beautiful segue. And before we get into that, it's just, you said so much that it really makes this conversation easy yet difficult, because I realize that, when you understand what time it is, we might laugh, we talk a little sports over here, we talk a little relationship stuff over there, etc. And there are many things that distract us. I want to send a shout out real quick. I had a great weekend in Orlando, Florida, with my friends, very, very beautiful friends from Drake University at our BSO. I was getting ready to say BOC, because I started the BOC at Drake, Brothers on Campus. That was my fraternity.
All right.
Right. All so right. And they know I walk in the cafeteria and I said BOC. Everybody else was giving the Greek greetings and I was giving mine.
All right.
And those are some of my very close friends, and I had a great time with them at the Gaylord Resort in Orlando, Florida. But it was very meaningful, believe me. The new black leadership conversation came up, and even my friends there, they referred to me as the new black leadership. And we talked the spiritual piece. We talked about the condition of our people. We talked about giving. We talked about the shepherd. We talked about fear. We talked about people feeling a certain way about themselves when it comes to pride. So we got into false pride. We were discussing family. We were talking about when we were on the campus, how we were able to, and I'm telling you, this conversation is so huge because you mentioned earlier before we got on the show, the operative word, organize. And man, we gotta take this conversation. If I was you all, honestly, I would share this conversation. I would share this. Please hit your share buttons. Now, you can like it, that's fine, but I prefer you sharing. If you're not going to sit there and listen and understand that, I believe, just as Minister Michael, this vessel, when God decides to use you, me, us, we, even as one, we need to make sure that we're on point with sharing something of substance. So when we were talking about organizing, I thought about you at Julian and organizing the Black student government. And then right now, there was a need, there was a void even then, and we didn't even address it to the degree that we address it. And then we met a man that inspired us, but we were already on that track.
That's right.
And God led us where he needed to lead us because he knew what we were made out of. But yet, they are followers, as you so eloquently said. But I want to talk with you, Minister Mike, because you said something, and look, it's two words that came to my mind, bro. And you can just go to work with this because this is real. Scientific strategy when it comes to this whole piece. I'm listening to other folks talk about this is going to be a very interesting election year. I wish you would stop that, because all you do is add to the complacency. You add to the non-productive mindset, activity, lack thereof activity. Now, but looking at it like you said, this is controversial, but it's truth in it. You said, and you can repeat it, that, so I said, I've been hearing people talk about how this is going to be such an interesting election year. And then if and off air people, we were having a conversation about voting. And I got to say this, I forgot in this other commentary, Mike, and then go straight to it. I was reading the post, and I want the brother, I hope you listening. I hope you, because a lot of time, a lot of folks, they scared of us. They scared to tune in because they don't want anything to mess with their mindset, Earl. But I saw a post that was disturbing to me, and it was little Spencer Leak Jr. put a question out. Nice young man, know his father, met his mom, but me and his father very cool with each other, and me and him, we very cool. I think he's a beautiful young brother. But I was insulted by a post that Spencer Leak Jr. suggested about renaming the street Stony Island to Barack Obama Drive or something like that. And I went off on the post. How the hell you gonna put Barack Obama before the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that made a difference on Stony? How stupid are you all? You stupid. You so stupid that you so caught up into symbolism. And that's supposed, and I'm reading all of the fools that's a great idea. I like that. I love that. That's how dumb you are. Because you disconnected and you disrespectful to a man that gave more than any black man on the planet. And you want to name a street after a brother because he won an office. And look at the condition of Stony, and look at the condition of any street in Chicago, and you so busy talking about, well, then they should name the whole library. You so silly. A bunch of Negroes, bourgeois, disconnected, and I'm jamming you. And if this shoe don't fit you, then don't wear it. But don't ever insult me with that foolishness. I wish the hell you would name it that. Name something else that. Go name it in Palatine that. Got the damn nerve, man. Y'all silly with that stuff. And you should have more intelligence than that. Share this with him. See, you don't want this. And I love him. But how dumb is that? You ain't got nothing better to do with your time than to create that kind of division in our community. You know damn well that street shouldn't be named after him. I'm trying to give the brother a break because I love him and his family. You don't deserve no damn street named after him like Stony. and the messenger did all that work. How foolish is that? I'm done with that commentary, but I'm saying it like that, spirited, because that's silly. And that's how we do. We just overlook those men and women that sacrificed their life for black people. And you caught up into some symbolic foolishness because you were able to go to the luncheon, the dinner, and you got the money to buy tickets. That's how silly you are. And that's why our community is suffering, because you so-called intellects and you, those who can go to all of the balls and all of the conferences and all of the black tie events, you ain't busting a grape out here. Could be a leader, but you caught up. Anyway, that's my commentary. I'm sorry if I hurt anybody's feeling, but that upset me, man. You should know better. It's obvious that you don't know what have your history and who really is making a difference. But Minister Mike, anyway, I use the word scientific and strategic. I don't know if you wanted to say.
Well, I'll ride in on what your commentary and your introduction of me, because you made an inadvertent mistake when you talked about me organizing at Julian. When I was in high school at Julian, Purcell Julian High School, I was the president of 3 different student groups. One was a citywide kind of student congress. There was another one similar to that. And the third group I created with just the young men in the school. But the actual student government, as I think back on it, was full mainly of students who became the next class of bourgeois elites.
Oh boy.
And so the kind of organizing that I was doing was outside of that circle. It was far more impactful, but it was not mainstream. It was not considered mainstream organizing. And so I never held a seat in the main student government inside of Julian, even though I ate lunch with the principal any day of the week I wanted. I had carte blanche at Purcell Julian for the organizing I was doing. I was also a student journalist and a co-editor of the student paper. And so the different department heads or the principal, if they wanted to run a story on something or they wanted to uncover some things going on in the building, they would send me in as the investigative reporter to write a story in the news. So my point is,
I never understood
on what you're saying about
the
separation between the common black person and the bourgeois elite is very critical, because the bourgeois elite benefit from the system the way it is. So therefore, they don't really see a need for change, because they don't experience the pain that the majority of their people experience, because they're extracting benefit. You mentioned Spencer Leak Jr., where he's extracting benefit from granddad and dad, who came through in the heart of Jim Crow, segregation, the lynching era, all the way through the 60s, fighting and scratching to establish black business. Now he's in an environment where he can reap the benefit and live a high life. He can go to the Tavern on Rush or the Back Room, or he can travel to Paris, or
and the daughters in Jack and Jill.
Right, all of that. So that class of people either never have, or they lose very quickly a connection to what poor people go through. The other part they most never get is any sense of what of black identity. They really are not grounded in the knowledge of self. They really don't have the histories and the biographies of men like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, like Marcus Garvey, like Fred Hampton Sr., like others who really laid it all on the line to move the needle forward, to lift us out of the mouth of the beast that is called white America. Men like Spencer Lee Jr. don't mean any harm.
Right. That's right.
They're just oblivious and ignorant to the truths of our history. And so the conversation that we talked about earlier, when we talked about having an organized approach to electoral politics, that's the problem, is that the system has skillfully learned that if they prop me up in front of my people, they dress me well, they feed me well, they make it so I ride well, and so forth and so on, then I become, as Minister Farrakhan has said so many times, I become the mannequin in the window.
A disguised
shepherd. Right. So our people will believe that they should listen to me because, you know, the diamonds bounce off the light in my watch, or you know, my fur coat is just laid, or my clothes are tailor-made, whatever it is, the material presentation is so rich that people believe that I know what I'm talking about. So our people, when it comes to electoral politics, have put the cart before the horse. We put the power of the vote, or the, not even the power of the vote, but the action of voting, in front of the economics of voting. We put it in front of the politics of voting. See, voting is a civic action, but it should be tied to some political identity. So the LGBTQ community, they're not just going to tell their people to vote because you're an American and you should vote and people died for you to. No, they're telling their people to vote because they have a political agenda. Doing their best to organize and educate their people around that agenda before they ask them to vote. Jewish people just don't tell their people to vote. Jewish people are highly, thoroughly organized, and in all of those many organizations they have at many different levels, they can kind of homogenize their agenda. They can kind of they get close to a singularity in their agenda. There's certain things in the Jewish agenda that are almost universal, that no Jew, practicing or non-Orthodox or non-Orthodox, will deviate from. Black people, we have no. Irish people the same, Italian people the same, Asian people the same. Look, when was there an Asian mayor? When was there an Asian state rep? When
President.
was there? Right. So Asian people, they have a political agenda. That's based in their identity. Black people in America, we've been sold a lullaby. Our attitude on voting is equal to the same psychology we practice when it comes to the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, and the Easter Bunny. All of these are Greek mythologies that have no root in any reality other than by metaphysical explanation. But they are not real things. And if we conflate it all the way out, they certainly have nothing to do with Christianity, but that's a whole nother story. But the point is, when we tell black people, vote, you better vote because people died for you to vote. That's a lie, Gregory. That's a lie. The people didn't die for us to vote. They died because we were fresh out of slavery. We were still being raped. We were still being robbed. We were still being molested. We were still being hung from trees. We were still being boiled in oil up in the woods in the back. White folks were still kicking your door in and dragging your son or your nephew or your husband or your daughter out the house, and wasn't nothing you felt like you could. We were still under the grips of intense, white supremacy, of a real physical, visceral thing. So the emergence of the civil rights movement, voting was a part of it, but that's not what they were fighting for. They were fighting to be recognized as black people who deserve what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad called freedom, justice, and equality. Voting is a part of that, but voting is not the end all be all of a process of self-empowerment. Because if we don't have a political agenda attached to our vote, then everybody else gets the rewards of our vote. So if you ask black people, why is there a land grab? Mark Carter and Brother Sam were here talking about the land grab a week ago. Well, how are we losing all of the property in the black community and we got 18, 19 black aldermen? If the basis of wealth and self-sufficiency is land and property, then how are our elected officials, black elected officials, how are they going and collecting over $100,000 a year paycheck, going to work every day or whatever it is at City Hall, but the land is disappearing? But they still telling us come vote. What are we getting for our vote? So Barack Obama benefited the elite. He did not benefit the masses of black people almost in no kind of way. You could say the health care. Well, that didn't really benefit poor black people because in order to get health care on that health exchange, those premiums were enough to pay your mortgage.
That's right.
So that was an illusion.
Big illusion.
A big illusion that got the white-controlled, white Jewish controlled insurance companies and actuaries. They made money hand over fist by Obama and the ACA. That's who benefited from the healthcare package. What did we get from voting from Barack Obama? If we take, and right now, there's a land grab going on in the name of the Barack Obama Museum campus. They're displacing poor people. They're going to bring in outside white contractors from different places around the country.
Couldn't find no black ones.
They don't want no black people. They're going to hire white folks over there to build that museum. We're talking about $500 million or more dollars going in the ground, going in the earth. And so where black people, Barack Obama and none of the people who represent that interest would agree to a community benefits agreement where they would enter in the agreement with the community on a minimum, on hiring minimums, on contracting minimums, on vending minimums, so that black people who are indigenous to that part of the land and the South Side would get guaranteed benefits. They wouldn't do it. So how is it that the people who claim to represent us are not making noise about this? The people who could call, look, Spencer Leak Jr., just as an example, I don't want to pick on him, but he's a good example. If a press release went out to all of the major news stations from Spencer Leak Jr., making a statement about the Barack Obama library, don't you know all the major media would come there? And he could raise the issues that we're talking about right now?
Yeah.
But he's not interested in that. But he's indicative of the problem we have in leadership. And so what I was saying to Brother Earl and Sister Wanda and yourself is that we've got to start looking at politics differently. And so one of the things that one of the powers we have that mainstream politicians have ensured we are afraid to try is the science of withholding our vote.
Ooh, explain that one.
And so when we talk about withholding our vote, Negroes go crazy. As though you really are trying to shoot Jesus Christ in the middle of his forehead with AR-15 if you say withhold your vote. So what I mean, G, when I say withhold your vote, we're not talking about individuals withholding their vote alone. We're talking about all of our organizations. We go to Cyron Smith, the founder and president of the Block Club Union and Block Club University, and we use his technology over the course of 4 years to organize as many blocks as we can on the south, west, east, and north side where black people are, and poor people of any color, but especially black people. Organize those blocks. And go to every grassroots organization and every so-called mainstream black organization. And as leaders, we commit to reaching out to all of our constituents and potential constituents and registering as many people as we can.
Okay.
Over the course of 4 years, all we do is register to vote. We don't vote. We say at the end of 4 years, let's hypothetically, we want 1 million or 500,000 new registered voters, or 300,000 new registered voters, and we register. As we're registering people, elections are going on. People are coming to us for our vote in that 4 year span, but we withholding our vote. Our people understand we're not voting on nobody before 4 years is up. And as 4 years is going on, as leaders, we come in the room in the United Black Leadership Quarterly Roundtable, and we talk about a strategy on how to marry a Black agenda, Black economic independence, with the power of engaging in the political process through voting. And so then we roll out an agenda that doesn't benefit the president and the leadership of the Urban League, the president and the leadership of the NAACP, the president and the leadership of this group or that group, the benefit the pastors group, benefit the doctors group or the lawyers group or the accountants group. No, we roll out an agenda that is strictly designed to lift Pookie and May up out of the gutter.
That's right.
Up out of abject poverty and ignorance.
That's right.
Economic and political agenda that is designed to give them proper education and orientation in the knowledge of themselves and all of the sciences of building a life in this civilized world that we live in, this society we live in. And we craft that with our best minds of community development people, planning people, economic development people across the board. We package that as our Black agenda. Right now, we know that Brother Reven has a national consortium of Black agendas. So in fact, this kind of work, I would say at least 75% of it, the basis of it is already in existence.
That's right.
It's just that we've never put on a concerted effort as leadership to lock into it. But what I'm saying is we cannot vote. We cannot continue to vote without an agenda, a unified agenda that at least 70% or more of all Black people buy into, at least 70% or more of all so-called Black leaderships agrees to submit to and hold themselves accountable to deliver some resources to transform the paradigm in Black America. Then we talk about who we're going to vote for or who we're going to vote out, who we're going to vote in, and the white folks that we just got to vote for because we may not be in a position to put our own candidate in that slot or at that level, then now we got power. They got to come to the table and talk to Black people, and we can put our demands on the table. So even if it's a white man going in, he knows that he got to deliver on these goods. Otherwise, when his turn comes around, we voting him out whether we got another candidate or not.
You mentioned beautiful. You mentioned something, you didn't use the word longevity, but you mentioned that this game of politics is not the immediate.
Right.
You said it a little different.
Yeah, I said it's a long ball game.
It's a long ball game.
In football, sometimes some teams, they got a star running back, a halfback. They play the short ball game, so they hand the ball. They run the ball. And win that game, but you got Randy Moss back there, or somebody like that. You could play a long ball game. You can charge downfield. You can throw that. You got a good quarterback. You could make a long. So, in other words, I use that as a metaphor.
That's right.
We've been socialized as Black people that we want everything right now. Mm-hmm. So this is a struggle I have with Black activists. Yeah, don't tell me about the election coming up next year, 2 years out, even 4 years out. We're not even prepared. We're not even in position we just automatically saying there's an election. I got to get involved. I got to pick a candidate. I got to help this one win or that one. Well, hell, what are we helping them do? What do we get out of it? Other than a few people getting some money here to do petitions or the stuff that goes with running a campaign, and some consultants getting some money. At the end of the day, what gains is it bringing to Black people the way we're playing politics?
Zero. question for you. I'm doing an interview tonight. Although that commentary stuff. Don't they know this? The people that are, so who's keeping us? What's keeping us from that mindset? I know you probably mentioned the fact of how messed up we are, and then some are wise to know that this will work, but they do everything in their power to keep this kind of thinking away from the masses because it will cut them off from their hustle.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people will find that difficult to believe, and that's why so many of you all sit under diabolical, deceitful, cunning individuals who claim to be representing God, who said, feed my sheep. And you sit under these people and you make excuses for them, and you look around and all you doing is being entertained. And nothing at all is being addressed as it relates to the poor, feeding the poor. The flock is scattered on purpose.
Yeah, so Adam Clayton Powell Jr. He was the first black elected official that I have seen in my research that talked about what's at the root of our problem politically with our thinking. He talked about our unhealthy relationship with white liberals.
Mm.
And when I say white liberals, if you don't know what that means, in 2017 and for the last 50 years, that has meant the Democratic Party.
They know what it means, but the other ones don't.
Right. So if we boil it down, see, there's a certain ilk of whites who infiltrated every black organization and put themselves at the front, that voluntarily or artfully offered program, agenda, organizational structure, set up their board of directors, showed them, helped them raise money and put money in their coffers. And so when they position themselves that way, now they have heavy influence. Even though there's a black face on the organization, the brain trust is really skillfully, artfully been disseminated and inserted by some white liberal, which unfortunately to say is usually from the Jewish community. That knows how to run these kind of tactics.
And the Irish did pretty good because Daley and them did pretty good.
Well, the Irish, they were very clear. We were clear that Daley was not our friend. See, when the Irish, we're clear with the Irish. The Irish are not like that. Either they like you or they don't, but they're not gonna act like they like you so they can control your thinking. The Irish gonna tell you, I think you a nigga, and if you come in my neighborhood over here, we gonna whoop you. Or they gonna say, no, that's my buddy. I work with Jim. I work with Greg. We work together. He's a cool guy. I'm not on that. I'm not a racist Irish. Ain't no surreptitiousness about them. There's no undercover kind of motive with the Irish or the Italians or most of the other ethnic groups. Well, I'm talking about that white liberal that usually is in the center of everything in the Democratic Party, that has made us believe that we must be connected to them. Right? And so they tell our leaders how to think.
Are they leaders though, Mike?
They are in the leadership position. They're not real leaders.
Right. Did they ever care about black people?
Some of them started out caring, but the problem is we are so corruptible. We've been so destroyed internally where we've never had anything. You know, when you talk about the kind of poverty we come from, whether it's Robert Taylor or the Ickeys or Henry Horner or, you know, when my family was in Morgan Park, when it, you know, it was dirt on the road. So wasn't no page. When you talk about coming from poverty and now all of a sudden you start out advocating for people like you, but the more you rise, just like with A. Philip Randolph. When A. Philip Randolph became a threat, white people sent him a blank check and told him, you can fill in any amount you want on this check up to $1 million. And we will honor that check if you will just stop doing what you're doing, organizing these black men. Well, A. Philip Randolph was a man of integrity. He sent the check back. Right? So
how many of these folks were sending that check back?
But see, this is why we honor certain elders and ancestors that deserve it, because and A. Philip Randolph is one. Now so we don't, most of us can be bought, is what I'm trying to say. Most of us, if you roll up, I was watching this show, Queen of the South. I don't know if you ever seen it. I think it's on Netflix. No, it's on USA. It's about a Mexican girl who was poor and she got caught up in the drug cartel. And the woman she was working for was another lady kingpin, and she was trying to take the business from her husband, right? And so what she did, all of her husband's underbosses, what she did was she bought them all Rolls Royces, and she put like $1 million cash in the trunk of the Rolls Royce, and one by one, as they out working and doing their thing and they legitimate business, here come a tow truck with a Rolls Royce in their favorite color, rolls up, they come out and come off the thing, open the trunk, they pop the trunk and all this. So when the deal went down and the husband tried to buck and prove he was in charge, she had already bought off all his captains. Ooh. So this is how we are, man. If somebody, and I mean, that's tough though. I mean, that's tough. I've seen a lot of some decent money in my lifetime, but I never seen $1 million cash, right? Nobody ever rolled up and gave me a Rolls Royce. So it's easy for me to sit here and say that, but I believe that I'm strong enough to turn down a Rolls Royce and some money if it means compromising the future of my people, right? Because of the kind of life that I led.
And it's just a matter of time.
A tremendous sacrifice.
And it's just a matter of time. It's like when you go and you tell on which way we're escaping from the plantation. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of time before they bring you in.
That's right.
And deal with you because they can't trust you.
Right.
So they never could be trusted, period.
Right. So when our leaders come to us in our churches,
share this too, please.
Our organizations, and ask us to get involved in politics. And I've seen this with my own eyes, where a certain leader comes to the group and says, we got to support this candidate. We got to get our people out in the street. Well, you put the people out in the street for free. You may buy them a sandwich and a pop, maybe, right? But the people that you putting in the street, they don't know that you cashed a fat check. But they trust you because you in the line of leadership and they feel obligated to follow your instruction, but they don't know, or you come and say, we got to register so many people to vote, but the people don't know that you got a check from some entity in the Democratic Party, usually, that has paid you to do voter registration, but you're not paying the people. You may buy them lunch. You know what I mean? You may buy them a box of chicken, but you're not going to share that check. You're not going to evenly distribute that check, or you're not going to call them in the room and say, hey, we got a $10,000 check here to do voter registration. What can we do with the money to change this part of the neighborhood? We don't have leadership that thinks like that.
Now we have another one on the Republican side that's buying them steak dinners. Because he buying them and he taking them to Ruth Chris. They get to go to Ruth Chris.
Well, the principle is the same.
And that's what I'm saying. And they slick.
Well, white people know.
And then they got us thinking it's all the Democrats, and yet they behind closed doors, and they using the Democrats to boost up their platform. But people know that they doing it, and they still doing it. And it's like they create more division, but they going for a higher price. They got a higher price tag because they live more sophisticated. So they get to go to Gibson's, while the other ones, they cool with Church's chicken.
Well, my experience with the difference in the Republicans is that they are not afraid to do business with black people. And they're not trying to control your business, right? If they're going to give you a contract or a grant or whatever it is, once the deal is done, they honor the deal. They're not looking over your shoulder every 5 seconds. When you do business with Democrats and liberals, they're going to give you the $1 million grant, but they're going to tell you that you got to take their grant manager. You got to take their program manager. You got to put this person on your board of directors. So they're interested. They're far more controlling and paternalistic. So most of our social organizations, our educational institutions, etc., that get money from liberals, those foundations and those money people dictate to black organizations what they want and how they must have a high measure of control over that group if I'm going to continue to give you this money. When you deal with the Republicans, once the deal is done, they go on about their business.
So Mike, if tell me this, and you break this down however you want to break it down, however the Spirit leads you. If the book said, let my people go, and then another part says, get behind me, Satan, are we talking about that group, or do we have to deal with those individuals that now look like us? I don't know if they sound like us, they could sound like us, but they're the ones who are now misdirecting the community.
Right. What Steve Coakley, who was one of my early mentors.
Steve Coakley. I love him.
He was the one who started revealing the reality of what's called the boule. And if you belong to a black Greek letter organization, you are familiar with the boule. The boule is the super elite class of people who are usually doctors, lawyers, elected officials, judges, highly placed people in the system who are mainstream by and large in their mentality. They wave the red, white, and blue, and they believe in it wholeheartedly. They become gatekeepers. And so when you go and interview for a job, you got to go through a gatekeeper. And that gatekeeper is looking for a certain psychological profile. And if they sense that you have a sense of defiance to the system, then no matter how capable or qualified you are, generally you will have a hard time getting gainful employment. If you're bidding for a contract with the city, the state, the county, or whatever it is, normally there's a gatekeeper there, a black person or a white liberal there who is vetting you psychologically to see what your social political orientation is. And if you have too much going on or too much energy around you that's all about helping poor black people, then 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the contract or the grant. You're not going to get the introduction to the person who could help you take your group or your organization or your business to or your career to the next level if you are not this kind of homogenized black people, this kind of Tiger Woods, and as much as I hate to say it, a Michael Jordan type black person who is apolitical. You don't say anything about politics. You don't challenge anything. You can't be a Colin Kaepernick. You can't be, a Dave Chappelle. You can't have an opinion about racism and oppression and make it to the next level. They do a very strenuous job in trying to filter those kind of people out. So the problem we have in the community is we have gatekeepers. So normally what happens if I get a position, like I just heard information that I didn't know. Well, there's a liaison to law enforcement in City Hall. The chief of police has to go through. So now, let's say I became the chief of police.
and I want to do some stuff to really deal with the crime the way I know it needs to be dealt with, well, I really may not have the juice that people think I have, because there's a gatekeeper right there. That in this case, it's a white liberal person, but sometimes it's another black person. So you know, I work with another pastors group. We had a person, a highly placed person from City Hall as a part of the group. And so when we asked for city services to come through a neighborhood, we were doing a Stop the Violence campaign to, you know, to clean the community up, sweep the neighborhood. We needed garbage can, just basic stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We couldn't get that because it was a threat. It was viewed as a threat, and
a threat to what?
Whatever. So what I'm saying to answer your question is, the problem we have, it's a double edged. On one side of the coin, it's white paternalism and the white liberal who makes us think that they're our friend. But on the other side of the coin, so we don't really key in on that, is always a black person that looks like you or me. You know what I mean?
No, Mike. I gotta ask you this question, because you just, so many things have came to my head. The word gatekeeper, you know, I'm familiar with it, but I was thinking, and I'm asking you the question, and folks out there, please share this: is Stephen A. Smith a gatekeeper? Is Roland Martin a gatekeeper? No, I'm expanding the gatekeeper because we get tricked. I mean, there's movies that come on television that people think is real, and they get locked into it. If they get locked into it, they depress when it's off, and when something goes this way, and they make a move on some part, actor or actress in the movie. And I'm saying that because in every facet, there's gatekeepers. I mean, you scientifically, you know, defined it. And I want the people out there, look, you got to share this video. Trust me, you share a lot of stuff, but what you're hearing tonight needs to be shared. You got a little time too, 708-223-8953, if you just want to call in and weigh in on this. But Mike, going back to the gatekeeper, and I'm thinking about what you said as it relates to that type of individual. Where do we start? Because you mentioned organizing and what the new black leadership is trying to do. Because I'm thinking, and then some of it makes me a bit sad, but I'm hopeful and got faith and believe that God has us here speaking at this range for a reason. And when you talk about untapped leadership, and you look at the mess that our community is in, and the mess makers, what do you and how do you see, what do we need to tell the people that's viewing this after you share this? Where do we start as far as organizing, and what the new black leadership believes scientifically, wisdom-wise, God-led wise, that will bail us out of all of the crap that we seem to be stuck in?
Well, that's a multifaceted thing we have to deal with, but we have to start with everybody that claims, that makes the claim to speak or represent or do what they do in the name of black people. That's why we created the United Black Leadership Quarterly Roundtable, so that we can begin to build a platform where if you going around in the community saying in the name of the community you doing X, Y, and Z, where you should be willing to come in the room with other black people who, some who are known, some who are not known, some who are doing a whole lot of real on the ground work, some but may just be social media activists. I don't know. But if we standing in the name of black people, that's where we start, with those people, making them people know that they got it. Sooner or later, you got to come in the room and report and answer and be accountable for what you doing in the name of black people. And when we get that group organized, now we have moral leverage.
Now we have a brain trust where we can break down the major institutions, the major components that make up quality of life, whether that's economic and fiscal, whether that's educational, whether that's social services, whether that's political, right? We can break whether that's the building of black family and that kind of thing. We can break down those major functions, and we can organize ourselves to make a focused, concerted effort behind pushing an agenda and coming up with interlocking strategy on each front to hold leadership on the city government level, the county government level, the state government level. On those three levels, well, let's not worry about federal, because all politics is really local. We can begin to hold our local elected officials accountable, and so doing what I said earlier, organizing our votes. Not just to vote before we have an agenda, not just to vote before we've educated our voters on what we need, what the issues are, how we solve them, what we should vote for, what we shouldn't vote for, who we should vote with, who we should vote for, who we should vote out. That's what we got to do. Then we put our vote behind our agenda. And the more we move toward doing that, all of those gatekeepers and the people who made them gatekeepers will begin to realize, hey man, we got them. We got a problem on our hands, because there's a movement coming that's going to roll over us and move us out of the way, because the suffering of the masses of black people, we will have the ordination from the suffering masses of black people when they see enough of us moving in that way.
Let me tell you something, boy. That is and Harold Davis, don't, I'm not stealing it. I know a bunch of people been stealing the butt naked truth. But that was the butt naked truth. If I haven't heard it, unadulterated, truth. And folks, and you know what I have to tell you, got to tune in to those brothers on the butt naked truth, because they laying it down too.
That's right.
They come on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 2 to 4, 1570 a.m. and they stream it live. But I was thinking as you were speaking, when you get cats, like you say gatekeepers, I see them in every facet. You said the word facet. Is Mike Vick and Ray Lewis speaking up against Colin Kaepernick,
right.
two knuckleheads.
Right.
Two major
Vic apologized.
punks.
He apologized.
Oh yeah, he should apologize, because he was a punk. Anyway, and Ray Lewis is despicable. You're a clown. And let me say this: if you have a radio show, if you have a television show, if you have an internet show, if you have any damn show, and you run in your mouth, damn it, this is required, this course right here. Get the video and you can dress it up the way you need to. Now, unless you're on the payroll and you're on there to keep our community divided and confused, I understand why you ain't gonna share this conversation and ain't gonna take this. Stop acting like you got it. Damn it, this is what it's really all about. And if you really love your community, then you'll draw from this. I don't care who get the credit, as long as we see our people getting up. So go and study what you heard Minister Mike articulate. And it's only through his vessels that God has delivered that message from others who have inspired us to be bold and have tenacity. But more than all of that stuff, we love the people. That's what's lacking. No matter how intellectual, you could be bourgeoisie, but damn it, make a real, sincere sacrifice to help black people. And if you don't believe in freedom, justice, I don't hear the Urban League saying freedom, justice, and equality. You too scared to say it, because you going along to get along. And that's a problem. Minister Mike, bro, that's why I called you the breath of fire. Hey, the brother, he called me that, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to receive that, but I am mad about what I see going on when it comes to our people.
That's
Thank
right.
you all for tuning in and share this. And also, let me hear your comments. What do you think?
And before we go
Go
off,
ahead,
I want
Mike.
to invite everybody. There's a Marcus Garvey celebration by Minister Aton and the Temple of Mercy Association. There's a Fred Hampton celebration coming up. There's free haircuts and hairdos for back to school. All of these events can be found on the Facebook page of the New Black Leadership Coalition. That's facebook.com, the New Black Leadership. You can find all those events on our timeline. We would like everybody to come out and support our members as they try to serve Black people in the hood. Peace.
All right. Thank you, Brother Mike. Thank you. The best producer on the planet at the best radio station, internet station in the world, streaming live all over. Brother Earl Winfrey, he takes no prisoners. This man don't water it down. He inspires us, and he also cuts us off when we go over too. Anyway, thank you, Brother Earl. Peace.
Turned into a heartache. All I know